So South Africa has finally kept the lights on, but it is not Eskom we should be thanking. Today we're unpacking how load shedding has been solved, how a new law is meant to fix our broken stat system, and why experts say that South Africa's skills plan needs to be scrapped altogether. Plus, in the Wildcard, the two volcanic islands that belong to South Africa. I kid you not. My friends, if you're enjoying the show, be sure to like and subscribe. And now, without further ado, let's get into it. For the first time in years, South Africa has gone months without load shedding. And according to former Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter, it is not a miracle, it's math. He said that the grid stability comes down to three factors: private solar, newly restored power units, and an enormous diesel bill. So over the past 18 months, households and businesses have installed more than 6 gigawatts of rooftop solar. That's roughly the output of one of Eskom's biggest stations. Look, it's an extraordinary collective effort. I mean, ordinary South Africans are powering themselves while easing strain on the grid. Now, at the same time, long-delayed maintenance at Koeberg and Kusile have finally brought several major units back online. But de Ruyter says that the real safety net here is diesel. I mean, Eskom's fuel bill reportedly jumped from about 5 billion rand when he ran the utility to about 24 billion rand today. And so that seems to be the irony here. It's ordinary South Africans, not our governments, who've done the real heavy lifting. So while government burns through billions of rands in diesel and deals with generation breakdowns, its own citizens have quietly built a more sustainable solution on their rooftops. So look, I get it, statistics sound boring until you realize that they quietly decide almost everything in South Africa, from how much funding a city gets, to where clinics are built, to which policies get passed. A large chunk of it depends on the numbers collected by Stats SA. And when those numbers are wrong, the ripple effect is massive. So many South Africans already don't trust them. I mean, if you recall a few months back, Capitec's former CEO argued that unemployment isn't really 33%, but closer to 10%, claiming that informal traders are being misclassified as jobless. Now, you see, this captured a far wider frustration that the country's data just doesn't feel believable. And there's reason for doubts. I mean, the 2022 census missed roughly 31% of people and 30% of households, the worst undercount on record. Now, President Ramaphosa has signed the Statistics Amendment Act, which is this law meant to rebuild that credibility. So it creates a single national statistics system and forces coordination across departments and formally shifts the census to every 10 years instead of 5. And so if this works, it could theoretically rebuild public trust and finally give the country a picture accurate enough to plan for. So if you've ever heard of SETA and have no idea what it actually does, you're not alone. They were created in the late 1990s to fix South Africa's skills gap, each one tied to a specific industry, funded by a compulsory levy on employers. And so, look, the idea was pretty simple: collect money from companies, train workers for real jobs, and close that unemployment gap. But decades later, and it just hasn't worked. According to a new report by the Centre for Development and Enterprise, only 1% of businesses ever get the training grants, despite 300,000 paying into the system. We have billions of rands flowing through 21 different sectors each year, yet unemployment rates keep rising. About 1,000 people a day have joined the jobless queue for 17 years. So to no one's surprise, the CDE says it is time to scrap the model entirely. They want skills training run directly by businesses and technical colleges, with funding tied directly to results rather than bureaucracy. Because if SETAs were meant to bridge the gap between education and work, South Africa's unemployment numbers suggest that the bridge just never got built. And before we cruise on to our Bagel Bite of the day, here's a couple other headlines worth knowing. For starters, I just knew this was going to happen. Eskom's biggest union now wants a 15% wage hike, more than 4 times inflation, just weeks after the utility claimed its first profit in 8 years. Now, as we discussed earlier this week, the reality is that surplus came off bailouts and accounting tweaks, not real earnings. Dubai-based fintech Optasia is listing on the JSE, aiming to raise about 1.3 billion rand to expand. The firm works with MTN, Vodacom, and Standard Bank, processing more than 32 million microloans a day across 38 countries. And Johannesburg's minority coalition has all but collapsed, with 6 of 10 parties quitting the bloc's WhatsApp group after a heated internal meeting. I can only imagine the emojis. Anyways, that walkout now leaves Mayor Dado Morero scrambling to keep the city's fragile unity government intact. And on to our Bagel Bite of the day. Let's see what you got. The question is, which artist holds the record for the most streamed song on Spotify? Is it A, The Weeknd, B, Ed Sheeran, or C, Taylor Swift? Bonus points if you know which song it is. And on to our wildcard section. Okay, this one blew my mind. Here's something that most of the Africans have no idea about. We actually own a pair of sub-Antarctic islands, complete with volcanoes, penguins, and 0 permanent residents. So they're called the Marion Island and the Prince Edward Island, and they sit 2,000 kilometers southeast of Cape Town in the freezing Southern Ocean. South Africa quietly annexed them in 1948, built a tiny weather station, and has kept them ever since. Officially part of the Western Cape, even though they are closer to Antarctica than the mainland. So Marion's an active volcano shrouded in the mist. Its black beaches crawling with elephant seals and king penguins. Now, Prince Edward's smaller and wilder is completely untouched. No buildings, no people, just wind and birds. The only people you'll find are a few dozen scientists on Marion who are brought in once a year on supply ships. It's one of the most remote places on Earth, and it belongs to Mzansi. So yeah, it turns out the southernmost corner of South Africa isn't Cape Agulhas. It's a frozen volcano 2,000 kilometers further south. And as for that Bagel Bite, the answer is The Weeknd. His song Blinding Lights holds the record as the most streamed song in Spotify history with more than 5 billion plays. Shape of You by Ed Sheeran trails behind in second with roughly 4.5 billion. And my friends, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed watching this one as much as we enjoyed putting it together. Hope you guys all have a great day. Be kind to one another, and we'll catch you all tomorrow for the final show of the work week. God bless.